Well, thanks for being willing to do this. Again, I mentioned it to Alex. I was like, "You'll never believe who reached out to me." He's like, "Was it Boettcher?" Yes, it was. Sweet.
Heck yeah. I
So,
just, and I apologize. It took me so long to get back to you because I was like, dang, I should have gotten back to you a lot earlier.
thinking back to, I don't know if we talked much about this one, but for us, the reason why we reached out to you guys was Brock Burkhart was driving past Miller Park on the first time that it rained inside the dome, and he was listening to the game because he's a Brewers fan, and they're talking about a rain delay, and he's like, "A rain delay? What is happening?" And he looked over as he was driving to work and saw, "Oh, it got him," and we thought, well, we've got innovative weather. Maybe we should reach out to them and find out what happens. And so, series of conversations. I think it took a year or two in terms of finally getting to the finish line, but eventually they said yes. And so the question I've been asking everybody, at least from your perspective, what caused you to give this innovative weather thing a chance?
Yeah. So we never like to hear that ever, right? Rain delay at Miller Park. That was the two saltiest words we could have ever imagined coming out of my mouth or hearing
Right.
twice into the ears in my 10 years there. But yeah, so there was a couple things, Mike. So one, we always were trying to find the most relevant and reliable data we possibly could when it came to managing the roof structure in regards to games and everything else. And I think that there was one, we already had like a partnership from a corporate standpoint or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
And so there was that. And then secondly, I think it's just from a groundskeeper's perspective, it's always beneficial to have local weather professional data, right? As reliable of data as we possibly can get when it came to that decision making process to close the roof, open the roof, whatever that might be. We sought it out any way possible. And I think when the dialogue started, yes, starts on a weird instance there where we having a rain delay. But I think more importantly is, hey, we have a weather program. We have a meteorology program local in our market that they care more about what happens locally than anybody else, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that as those discussions matured over that year and a half, it made a lot of sense to bring innovative weather in and say, hey, they are looking at the most relevant weather data. We have a program that focuses on this of bringing forecasters and weathermen into for the next generation. And I think it just made a lot of sense for us to partner with you guys. And at the end of the day, for us, it was an experience, and I hope that was an experience that it brought back to your staff and your colleagues.
Yeah. So you go first. I'll give you my perspective on it, but you go first. How did innovative weather impact your operations? And then I'll just share some of the things that I know that you guys impacted us.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing. So there was some changes, over my time with you guys. I started as the assistant, and then I became the head.
Hmm.
Um, in during our relationship time frame, and when I was as an assistant, I was always kind of in charge of making sure that I understood what was going on with the weather as it impacted our operations in terms of moisture management and just overall timing of operations on the field. And so for me, I think what I found to be the most valuable is one, having that direct line to the innovative weather.
Right.
And obviously, we can look at all the radars, all the national items that we possibly could afford or have available to us through an app, whatever. But I think the biggest thing is having your upcoming meteorologists that were able to interpret the data better than a groundskeeper, right? The interpretation is, I think, is where that really was beneficial to us of saying, okay, this is what we're seeing, this is what could happen. And I think there was two words that always probability, possibility, right? Exactly. So there was always that discussion of possibility, probability, and obviously we at the end of the day we still did have to interpret that data where when
Hmm.
it was coming in, and I think that it allowed from my perspective. Again, I wasn't a meteorologist. I'm not a weatherman. I have interacted with the weather ever since I was a wee little man, growing up on the farm. But I think the biggest thing that I could say, Mike, is it was always refreshing and almost a little bit of a sense of relief to know that your staff was seeing similar things that we were seeing, and it was providing an interpretation to us as the groundskeepers there and as the stadium as a whole to really impact what our decision making was. You know, that was, I think, to make a very knowledgeable decision
Hmm.
instead of just, you know. So I think that that's how it impacted us. And I think in my 5 years as the head groundskeeper, we never had a rain delay.
Nope.
So that was refreshing for me. I can honestly say, I guess now that my time is done there and everything, we never had a rain delay in my time.
Yep.
And I guess we could attribute that to numerous things, whatever. You can attribute that to luck, you can attribute that to whatever. But I think from my perspective, the biggest thing that I can attribute that to is just our due diligence and overall partnership with Innovative Weather and the decision making process that it allowed us to execute.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys were huge. What you just described there, like for, I'll say operationally, and then for me, operationally, like the nuances of that. So for example, we really fought, and part of the conversation would be, especially on those hot, humid days, when if you close the bowl, there's actually a heat stress risk. And there's a lot of elderly people who love baseball, and you close that dome up with no AC and no air movement. Um, I can remember times, why is the roof closed was what people were pushing on you. Get this thing open, and you're like, but we can't because of what's coming here, or that, we're watching things develop literally on radar above us. It just hasn't showed up on the free websites yet because it's still in the air, but it's coming down. But we were
Exactly.
we had those kinds of conversations. I mean, who would have thought that we're trying to balance the health and safety of the fans from a heat perspective while also maintaining the a dry environment for play to happen. Like, so the nuances of this very, very micro scale meteorology, which is not um it at least from the collegiate experience, by and large, it's not that we don't get that kind of detail and all of the reasons why this matters. But the growth that we had in terms of constant communications, if high pressure was overhead, we only had to talk to you once a day. But man, if there was a risk, we were talking nonstop. And I would say that that was the biggest part of young adult development, is their opportunity to have to talk with you. I was talking with Dave Megna last week, and he sometimes would actually phone in on a marginal day. Like, he knew that there wasn't any real big risk, but he would, oh, new name, I'm calling him, you know, it's just, it scare them a little bit. But his whole idea was, I want you capable of talking to me when there's a stressful day, because I need
Mhm.
to be able to trust you. And your willingness to do that, the visits out to you, the ability to go up on the roof and go see the rail, to go and walk where you guys walked, to understand why you had to have a 20-minute minimum lead time on getting things up. So for our staff to be able to experience those things, holy cow, invaluable. And that you always saw it as a partnership. And in fact, all of the partners that stuck with us, they all viewed it as, we're going to give you everything we got, the enthusiasm, inexperience, yes, but as they get more experience, you're the one who's actually experiencing them. So they're really seeing the weather through your eyes. And then, of course, together, are we communicating it well? Hey, can you work with this person, Mike? Get this person online a little bit more, or the infrastructure that you could call an assistant, or you could call me directly if we had a younger staff member because it really was critical.
Yeah.
Those were huge.
Yeah, and I think we talk in this sense, we're talking very much game day oriented.
Right.
And the one thing I think that a lot of people maybe listening to this interview, maybe not always understanding, is the usage of the grounds, whether it be the little
Yeah.
league field outside, extra events on the main playing surface, or any event going on within the park space. Right?
Yeah.
It impacted so much throughout the course of March through November. Right? I mean, people just they think about, oh, it's 81 games a year. That shouldn't be that hard. Why were you always talking every day? Stuff like that.
It-
And I think that's where people really lose the frequency and overall impact. It's not just a game day type of a communication and a reliance on each other. It was almost year round.
yeah. Was it you that told me that I think we were visiting one day and it was you who said this, what you're walking on is the most expensive piece of agriculture in the world or something along those lines.
It pretty much is. It's definitely got a lot of inputs into it.
Yeah, yeah. And
You know,
like you said, I can remember even kind of closing up the stadium, and putting the grass to bed,
mhm.
putting it to, into hibernation mode and to sleep, like really seeing it as a living organism that when they moved opening day into March, you're trying
Mhm.
to get playable grass in March with the Megatron glow,
Yep.
glow warmers and grass growers. Um, yeah, just exposed to such a neat side. And I'll tell you one space where you helped develop me, or just the needs that this relationship had was, from a radar standpoint. I can remember a couple of the occasions where it was day and it was game day. It was probably a Wednesday, so it was a day game kind of scenario, and we had pop-up stuff happening, but we were trying desperately to hold off on closing it to the last minute. And so we actually we had a radar project called GR Level 2, which allowed us to see different scan levels. And it was working with you guys that I started realizing that I can see the rain developing in the cloud and beginning to move down, that would give us that extra 5 minutes or that extra 10 minutes, or that confidence to know we've got to button this because we don't want to take the chance of that. And so we never really used the radar product that way, of how can we squeeze out the most amount of lead time. And so working with you guys was a neat place for me to grow, trying to figure out radar and communicate that.
Yeah. Mike, the more we talk and everything, and as the years, to look back on it now, 5 years ago, when I was there doing this, I mean, I think there was so much that each of us was able to understand better, due to this, due to this partnership. And it was just, being able, like you just said, the amount of minutes, when it comes down to the amount of minutes that we can get in terms of sun in the very limited sun time parts of the year, right?
Right.
That it was very crucial. We did have the supplemental light that we could use, but obviously can't replace Mother Nature.
No.
And that dialogue of being able to salvage minutes here, there, everywhere in terms of roof open was always, people don't realize the benefit of that as well.
Yeah. We wrap up. Give me a couple, a memory or two, or a couple fond stories or humorous moments that you remember about working with the team.
Oh man, there was a lot. There was a lot of instances. I think we look back on some of them. There was an event one time that we had just finished up from an extra event on the field, and we were like, "Hey, I think we can leave the roof open tonight."
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
really could use some time to to get some extra sun. There was a slight chance of rain, and maybe as a young groundskeeper at that point, I was maybe willing to take a risk more than I should have. And I think it was just one of those things that we ended up taking like a over an inch of rain
Right. I
the
remember that.
morning of a game.
Yes.
And I just remember the dialogue that, I was probably pretty worked up or tense at the time. But I really remember your staff just always being as professional, and the look back, right? And I think that nobody, in terms of weather, right? How many times do today's weathermen get every interpretation and translation correct right out
Right.
of the gates, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we can look at post, from the rearview mirror, we shall say. And I think it was just, again, it wasn't just that event, but then it was the talk about what's going on the rest of the day that allowed us to do what we were able to do. We did some stuff, and we had the game. The game was playable. It was great. Everything was fine. But I guess that was really the only one event that I'm going to recall.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2014.
Yeah.
But it was, I think overall we never had, like I said, we never had a rain delay in my time.
Right.
And again, I always look at that as a symbol and as a marking of what it takes, what a partnership looks like, right? What success looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like that I look at what marks success. In this regard, it was no rain delays, quality field conditions. You're never going to make everybody happy, but guess what? We kept the masses, the most people happy. And I think overall it was really good being able to interact with your staff, with your students for the 5 years that I was there doing that, as the head guy. Because I guess I come from a family of teachers, and it was just really fun. In some regards, it's really fun, Mike, to know that you are impacting, future generation, right? A future generation of meteorologists and everything there's always a lot to be said for precision and awesomeness and accuracy and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if we don't take time out to teach a little bit and to educate myself, your staff educated me, and I think we educated right back to the department. And I think it was just an overall, just a really great partnership in my time. And I'm sure if I ever get a chance to meet up with the staff again, they could recall some other stories that happened.
I think when we post this one to the Facebook group, it'll be fun to hear some of the stories. Some of them have started trickling in a little bit. I haven't watched everybody's moments, but yeah, you definitely are. The Brewers and that relationship has long been one of the favorite ones. And like you said, man, impactful. You had instant feedback, and because we lived here, uh, we definitely felt like we were part of the team. We cared
Definitely
about
not.
it. So, yeah. Anything else that you want to say? Otherwise, I'm good. This has been great.
Oh, Mike, I just, it was awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today. It was super cool. And I wish everybody that, was still with the program today as it ends a chapter there. It was just incredible to work alongside of you guys and to be, I guess, a part of that partnership. And I really just wish everybody a lot of luck that goes on from there. And yeah, I'm sure our paths will cross again.
And before we go, just give the people a quick update. What are you up to today? Because people have asked me, where is he at? What's going on in his life?
Yeah, yeah. So today, professionally, I am a sales manager for Hunter Industries. We are based out of San Marcos, California. So I focus on selling smart irrigation products and low voltage lighting to our domestic market. And so it's great. Our smart watering technology that we have, it utilizes some of the most accurate and, shall I say, pointed weather data possible out there. So it's super cool to really, utilize a platform, irrigation controller that takes into account previous weather data and forecasted. So actual weather data and forecasted. And yeah, so I cover most of Wisconsin and Northern Illinois for the market here for Hunter Industries. And then personally, yeah, me and my wife, we reside here in Milwaukee still today with our almost 2-year-old daughter. So
I love
it's
it.
it's great. So I love what I get to do. I get to interact with still a lot of people that take weather and ask for results based off of it. So
There we go. All right, man. Well, this has been fantastic. We definitely have to get together at some point. I think El Beso is calling our name again. Uh,
yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
down for that. So
heck
uh,
yeah.
let's get something on the calendar for this summer, and we'll go from there.
No, that sounds great, Mike. Definitely. Now you have my number. So,
I do have the right number, so we will be in touch.
and if there's anybody else, Mike, that wants my contact info or something, just let me know.
I think
I
some of them are going to want to reach out to you personally. So
Oh, and again, thank you to all of everybody that allowed for that partnership to be what it was in my time with the Brewers. There, it really was made my overall my experience and my ability to manage the surface there probably the best it could have been. So
yeah, awesome. All right, man. Thank you for this. I greatly appreciate it. I know that our staff and alumni will appreciate this one too. So thank you for taking the time today. And like I said, I'm gonna get a text out to you. Go look at your calendar and we'll get something put on it.
yeah, sounds good, Mike.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Catch you later.
See ya.